So let's talk a little bit about the joiner. There's really two main parts to the joiner. There's the in-feed table and the out-feed table. The in-feed table is the side that you run the material through first, and then it lands on the out-feed table. I should mention that we have a spring-loaded guard on this piece of equipment, which moves out of the way as your material goes through the cutters. And you never want to run this piece of equipment without this guard on. There's a spindle between these two tables that has three very sharp knives on it. The outfeed table is adjusted so that its height is exactly at the same height as these knives, and it takes some special equipment to do that adjustment. And we, usually do it at the beginning of a class, and then maybe afterwards we'll come back and replace these knives and then adjust it again. So one thing I want to make sure that everyone knows is that we don't want to loosen this and then change the setting on the outfeed table because it's already set. We can, however, move the infeed table up and down, and you'll be able to see as I loosen this, you'll be able to see this table move up and down. We have a scale right here that tells us how far down the table is, the in-feed table is from the out-feed table. So here you can see it starts at 0, so you could have them all at the same height. In that case, you wouldn't do any cutting, but as you bring it down lower, you've got 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch. Now typically, you're going to set it at about 1/16 of an inch. You never want to take more than 1/16 off, except in this operation that we're going to do for our cabinet. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's talk a little bit about the fence. The fence has an adjustment that allows us to move it back and forth. And the way we used to use the joiner in my shop when I was running a cabinet shop was when we'd put brand new cutters on, we'd start the fence over here, and then as it got dull, we would move it over here, lock it down, use it there until it got dull, move it some more until we'd used up all of the knife, all of the sharpness of the knife. So very simple adjustment, just move it back and forth and then lock it down right here. Most of the time we have this fence set at 90 degrees to the table, and they've given us a little notch on the back edge here so that this little pin can go into that notch and it sets it at 90 degrees. There is some fine adjustment there, and usually on this joiner I find that it's out of adjustment. I never trust it. So what I do is before I start cutting any material, I'll take a square and put it on here, and sure enough, take a look at that. It's in the preset, but yet I'm off probably 2 or 3 degrees there. So I'm just going to leave that sitting there and then adjust this so that I'm right at 90 degrees. And there we go, and then just lock it down right here. All right, let's make the notch in our top and bottom, but first I'm going to do it on a practice piece. And we know it needs to be about 6 millimeters because that's the depth of our rabbet. So let me set this up so that it's actually a little less than 6 millimeters so that you can see what a bad fit looks like. And then I'll show you what a proper fit looks like. So I'll get my safety equipment on. Now 6 millimeters is about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to come down, I'll come down to maybe 3/16 of an inch. Lock it down. All right, now let's cut a practice piece. So there's my little notch, And I'm going to test it out now and see how it fits. Here's my cabinet side and the rabbet that we put in it over on the router table. Let's try this practice piece out. And if we were just to look at the face here, it would look pretty good. It's nice and flush. We don't see any gap in between the two pieces, nice and tight. But if we spin this around and take a look at this connection right here, this piece isn't even touching until it gets way back here. So that tells me that my notch isn't deep enough. I need to make it deeper so that it can go down, still touch here, but seat snugly all the way across this side. So I'll go ahead and adjust it down a little bit and we'll try it again. All right, let's take a look at the second try at getting this set properly. Still have a nice tight fit on the face. If I swing it around here so that you can see the underneath edge, you can see that it's touching all the way across there, nice and tight. Now, one last thing that I want to point out to you is that this notch that we made here has a radius to it. It has a slight radius. You need to make sure that you get the radius past the edge of this little notch right here. If you don't, if you're up here, it's going to sit on the radius and it's going to kick it up. So I usually go about twice as far as the thickness of this solid piece right here. So notice that the front of the cabinet, the edge-banded portion, is facing forward. And one of the reasons I like to put the edge banding on first is because it gives me a cue as to which way to run the piece through the joiner. And the second reason I like to put the edge banding on is so that the joiner does the cutting for me. It gives me a very super clean cut that I could never do on my own. So here are the two parts that I just cut on the joiner. Put this nice little notch in here. Now let's take a look at what the final fit looks like. Got a nice tight joint here in the face of the cabinet. And if I turn it around and we take a look at the bottom edge of the cabinet, you can see that it's nice and tight all the way across there. So we got this notch cut just to the right depth. So now it's time for us to move over to the Bloom mini press, where we're going to bore our 5mm system holes.